Welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Alexander Wilson, and my co-host, Anthony Rivardo. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, hit that follow button, Alex Wilson, ESM, Anthony_Rivardo. We're back at it for another episode, another week of Giants talk, and it seems like we can't get out of the negative days, the Debbie Downing days, if you will. Aldrick Rosas didn't spare us this time around. Luckily, we had just before we started heard about the news. If you haven't already, Aldrick Rosas was pulled over, rather hit someone, tried to run away. He was reportedly intoxicated. So it's been a pretty tough start to the day. But before we dive into that, how are you doing, Anthony?
Disappointed, like always with our Giants. There's always some bad news going around that just takes my mood down a notch. But besides that, I'm also excited for our Madden matchup that's coming soon. I'm really excited to beat you to a pulp on the sticks. I'm very confident that it's going to be an easy dub.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I've been practicing a ton for a much anticipated matchup on Thursday. Anthony and I will be playing Madden, live streaming, then we'll have the video out afterward on YouTube. However, the whole caveat in the situation is that whoever loses has to eat a spicy pepper, and that reaction will also be included in said video. So we're trying to get really creative with things and just really have fun. So I've been practicing like a madman because I do not want to eat the spicy pepper. And I just found out that Todd Gurley is literally unstoppable in this game. He just broke like 7 tackles in a game I was just playing. I don't know how he did it, but we're going to do our best. So I played Madden my entire life. I haven't played the last few just because they've seemingly progressively gotten worse. But, I will try my best and hopefully take down Anthony and the giant that he seems to be, pun intended. So back to Aldrick Rosas and what he's dealing with right now. I feel like the Giants just, ever since the boat trip in 2016, it's been like a bad Indiana Jones film. Like, where's Harrison Ford when you need him? Look, I'm wearing a 2010 Hakeem Nicks jersey because I'm really just trying to turn this team around. Superstition, I'm trying everything, guys. Everything that you can possibly do, we got to change something up because it's not working. I put the Saquon Barkley jersey back in my cabinet for now. I'm bringing out the old Hakeem Nicks jersey. The funny part is I'm not a big guy, but I bought this when I was like 10 years old, and it's like an extra large. I must have looked like a small, just an absolute clown in this jersey.
Must look like a dress on you.
I know, it's huge on me now. I can't imagine what it was like. I feel like I just ordered it online and I didn't know. I thought it just like kind of came in your size at the time. I was so young, but it did not come in my size clearly. But I'm trying everything, guys. Like, there's not much I can do from here, but I'm doing everything I can superstition-wise to change this thing around. 2020 has been a crazy year, I must say. But Rosas over here, like as if he didn't learn from DeAndre Baker a few weeks ago, just stay silent, just stay quiet, just wait things out. Anthony, can you please read to the listeners and whoever's watching on YouTube a little bit into what this guy actually did?
Well, what he did was he flew through a traffic light going over 100 miles per hour, T-boned somebody to where their car was completely totaled and could not drive anymore. But for some reason, Rosas' car was still able to be driven for just a little while longer, so he drove off and fled the scene. But once the car broke down, he got out, ran off, and then eventually the cops found him and arrested him. They said that when they found him, he was barefoot and he was covered in blood on his feet, his hands, and somewhere else. So he was bloody, he was a mess, and they believe that after bringing him to the hospital, they believe that he was intoxicated. So he was driving drunk, it was a hit and run, and he was doing all of this on a suspended license, which makes it 10 times worse. So it's a really, really bad situation. I know, innocent until proven guilty, but the cops literally found him and arrested him, bloodied. They know that he was driving and they know that he caused this accident. They're not 100% sure yet whether or not he was drunk, but it seems like it because this is like a ridiculous thing to do. So it doesn't look good. It's not like the DeAndre Baker situation where everything seems fishy from the start and like there might be a chance that he gets exonerated. With Aldrick Rosas, that seems highly unlikely. It seems like we know exactly what happened. The cops already know what happened, and it seems like we're not going to be having Aldrick Rosas as our kicker, and I doubt he ever gets a job in the NFL again if he is found guilty of all of this.
Yeah, it seems like that is probable course of action for the Giants, just cutting him after they find out exactly what happened. But there's no denying that he did this. They found him bloodied, barefoot. The accident knocked his shoes off. I mean, the guy was running barefoot. Like, why would you try and run? And here, is part of the segment that we have planned for today, that we're going to be doing every episode, our fact and quote of the day. My fact of the day is, now we know that Aldrick Rosas was drunk at 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. Why? I get people have problems, people have problems. But when you're a professional athlete, living in California, you have this much money. I know that probably is actually like a catalyst behind more wrongdoings in life. Mo money, mo problems, as JC said. So this is what we're talking
Jay-Z,
about
no,
here.
it was Biggie.
Was it Biggie?
It was Biggie.
No, Jay-Z had a song that said 99 Problems.
Yeah, 99 Problems, but Mo Money, Mo Problems was by Biggie and Puff Daddy.
Two different things. Okay,
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. So Biggie...
I know my rap.
Biggie, yeah, he does. Anthony,
Biggie.
This is why I have Anthony here, just to correct me on my rap gaffes.
Pretty much.
But with Rosas, my fact of the day is that we know he has some sort of problem if he's drunk at 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. That's not normal for anybody. So it's a little disappointing to see our starting NFL-level kicker, who was a Pro Bowler in his rookie season, now is likely out of a job for the rest of his career. And if you saw his mugshot, I posted on my Twitter account. Go check it out. He has scratches up his neck. He looks kind of like he's on drugs, or at least drunk, hungover, something. He's not clean shaven. He doesn't look really that healthy per se. It's a little concerning to see, and obviously now we're going to have to look into some more options at kicker. I'm sure Anthony has some in mind. He's going to be writing an article tonight to detail some of the alternatives at the position the Giants could look into. We've gone through this before with the Josh Brown incident. He was domestic abuse charges, and the Giants waited a little bit too long to cut him, and that became a whole thing, rightfully so, because he should have been cut immediately once those things were identified. Right. But with this drunk driving, 8:30 a.m. in the morning, T-boning somebody, running away, there's no denying he did this, because they literally found the guy bloody and walking on the side of the road, and he was intoxicated with a suspended license. This is not a DeAndre Baker case. This is very clear cut, and if the Giants don't cut him, I'd be very, very surprised. And Anthony, do you have anybody in mind as a replacement for him moving forward?
I do think that there's one name that really sticks out to me. First of all, he has a connection with Joe Judge from being on the New England Patriots special teams, and secondly, he's a great kicker and was for years. It's Steven Gostkowski. That is a big name that sticks out to me. I know he was the best kicker in the NFL for years at one point, so the connection, him and Joe Judge obviously know each other, and I expect Joe Judge to reach out and probably make that signing. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me, too. If you've ever had Gostkowski on your fantasy football team, the guy's like a running back. He puts up like 17, 25 points every game. He's like Alvin Kamara as a kicker. So, that's kind of the position we're in now. I'm just happy it was our kicker and not a very influential player. I mean, I'm really just pissed off that it's anybody to begin with. And now we're sitting here trying to evaluate another legal situation. It's different if it was just an injury, like the Philadelphia Eagles, Brandon Brooks just tore his ACL the other day. He's out for the season, which is really disappointing. It's never it's never a good thing to see talented players go down. It makes the game more enjoyable for everybody. But when it comes to legal issues, the Giants have had 2 in the span of 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's all revolving around this quarantine. People are bored. People are doing stupid things. I don't really understand why you'd risk your entire career for either Baker or Rosas just being at the wrong place at the wrong time, or doing the wrong things at the wrong time. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You really have to appreciate. If anything, this quarantine has taught me to appreciate everything that I have. Because it's a lot of people are really struggling right now. With whether it's financials, family issues, just so many different things that could be going on. And to have a great life with money and a secure job as a professional football player, and to throw it all away, to be drunk at 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning is super disappointing to me. With that being said, I do want to say, I don't want to rush to any conclusions, but the evidence is pretty straightforward that we know he did this. Right. I don't know who else it would be unless somebody else was in the car, and he's just not giving them up just yet. Who knows? But there was witnesses, apparently, according to TMZ. Again, something to take into consideration. TMZ was wrong on the DeAndre Baker case. So these are things just to note and to think about when we're talking about these things. New developments happen. But at the end of the day, Anthony, like, how does Joe Judge look at this? How is he sitting here and evaluating this team when his players keep getting into legal trouble?
I mean, Joe Judge has been dealt the worst possible hand. He has been hit with a string of bad luck. He became the head coach, and then coronavirus happened, and then he did show a lot of leadership skills by contacting the players and helping them talk through the Black Lives Matter protests, and that was awesome. And obviously, it showed that he has that great leadership that we knew he had. But now he has 2 legal cases to iron out with his team. It's just unbelievable that he steps into this situation. You would think it's such a great situation. He builds a great coaching staff. He has all this young talent, and things just start falling apart around in the world and on his roster. I feel almost bad for him, but this is his job. This is what he's paid millions of dollars to do, is to iron things out like this and be a good football coach. So hopefully he is a good football coach. I don't know what he's possibly thinking right now. He's probably thinking, wow, could my luck get any worse? But at the same time, I know the Giants said they have not released a comment. They don't have any comments yet. They're going to wait and see for more evidence, apparently. And I expect Joe Judge will release a statement, and hopefully he steps in. He be's the disciplinary man that we expect him to be, and he makes this cut, because I don't want it to be like the Josh Brown situation where they hold on to this guy for too long, knowing what he did. Just, you learned your lesson there. Cut the guy. He made a really terrible mistake that could have gotten someone killed. He deserves to be punished for this. So it definitely, Joe Judge needs to step in and make this cut.
Yeah, and reading the report, I don't even think they mentioned what happened to the person in the car.
I don't think they did. I feel like if the guy died, they would have mentioned it. So the fact that they haven't said that, right? But the fact that they haven't said that, so I'm assuming the guy is alive. But he was T-boned at 100 miles per hour, so he's definitely significantly injured. So there's a chance he passed away. I really pray that he didn't, but who knows at this point?
That's what I'm saying. We don't know. This could get a lot worse or a lot better for Rosas. We don't know how injured the other person was. Obviously the other person isn't going to jail. It seems like most of this information came from the jail itself, and whatever witnesses were there. So whatever witnesses were there probably don't know what happened to the guy if he was brought to the hospital. Once paramedics showed up, we will find out eventually, but that's not good. Either way you look at it. So pray for the guy that was injured in the car crash, and hopefully he is okay. But Rosas is in a world of hurt coming toward him in terms of civil lawsuits and just so much more. I think the Giants should start looking for a kicker ASAP. And back to Joe Judge, I just want to mention, coaching players virtually is not easy.
Nope.
No one ever expected this to happen, and Joe Judge certainly wasn't prepared for this to happen. It's a lot easier when you've already had a year, 2, 3 years with the same team, and you know your players. They trust you. You've already gotten in their head and were able to establish your disciplinary tactics on them. He has not been able to do that, whether it's through a video camera or a phone call. You can't do that unless you're in person, and those players feel like the fear that he's putting in them and instilling in them. That's kind of what is missing in this whole equation. But Judge has really been dealt a bad hand. I feel so bad for that guy. If he can bounce back from this and really put this team together once they're in person, I'm going to be like beyond happy. I really still have a lot of faith in him. I don't think this is his fault whatsoever. You can't determine, what's going to happen. Neither of these players, Rosas nor Baker, are his responsibility at the end of the day. I'm not blaming Dave Gettleman at all, but they're players that he brought in. And that's, like I said, not blaming Dave Gettleman at all, but Judge is the last person that should be blamed in this entire situation, really. So I think it really is just the responsibility of the players to take care of their own stuff, stay out of trouble. The coaches and general managers aren't babysitters. They're grown men. They have to be able to make smart decisions for themselves and their careers and their teams. But I just want to jump into one thing really quickly. My quote of the day, and I have to say it now because it's so relevant. It's kind of ironic, actually. Judge said during his opening press conference, before anything, if you're going to work in our organization, you're a good person. I don't want any alternative agendas. What does that tell me? It tells me that the Giants are probably going to be making some big changes over the next 2 years. In terms of people, in terms of how they're evaluating talent, what college prospects they're looking at. It seems like the type of people they bring in is going to be a lot more of a focus. Baker had a lot of red flags coming out. I mean, I didn't see this with Rosas coming, but I'm just tired of it, man. I'm tired of the losing, the bullshit, and the constant waking up to bad things happening and legal cases and just bad in-game calling, bad off-the-field locker room atmospheres, and it's just a revolving door of absolute disgrace this Giants team has become. And I remember when this organization was great. You know, the image, the respect that people had for the Giants. I felt like I was part of a family. Right now, I feel like I'm on the outside looking in to a dysfunctional family. You know, I don't want to be a part of a dysfunctional family. That's kind of like the issue. It's hard to even like tell people I'm a Giants fan right now because they're like, "Oh, your players are getting arrested all the time." I'm like, I feel like a joke. You know, as a Giants fan, like they're not representing the fan base as we need to be. Like we deserve better than this. And is it ownership? Is it executive management? Is it coaching? Or is it just the damn players? You know, that's all I have to say.
I mean, I think it's the damn players. I think these people are probably getting bored in quarantine and acting out. With Aldrick Rosas, since alcoholism is a serious problem that could have been affecting him, and he could be mentally ill. That is an illness, is to be addicted to alcohol. So, you know, in that sense, I'm not making any excuses for the guy at all, but I do feel bad for him. It is a terrible thing that he's done, terrible situation. Because this sounds like clear-cut alcoholism, being drunk at 8:30 in the morning and putting yourself behind the wheel. That's an awful thing. It's unforgivable. And it's not something that a good person would do. Like you just mentioned, Joe Judge's quote, a good person would not hit somebody at 100 miles per hour and run away. So that guy has no place on this team at all. We're still waiting on the DeAndre Baker news and evidence. I'm really hoping that it all ended up being a lie of sorts and that he isn't the terrible person that the media immediately made him out to be once we heard about this. So like we keep saying, Joe Judge has really been dealt a bad hand. We thought that there was a lot of quality characters on this roster. It seems like maybe there was a couple who weren't so quality. Hopefully we get the bad quality people out of here, and we can get more people like Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley have already proven to be great leaders. Darnay Holmes seems to be a great leader from the story that you said a few podcast episodes ago. He seems like a great guy. I want more people like that on this roster. I don't want people who are constantly getting in trouble.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. But to move on to more positive things, because I don't want to sit here all day and talk about Aldrick Rosas and DeAndre Baker.
I have a positive quote of the day, so let me put that one out there. All right, This is from Saquon Barkley. I always feel like I've got something to prove. That's always been my mindset. Always going to try to be the best player and person that I can be, not only for myself, but for my team. Which kind of relates to the quote that you had of being a good person. Saquon Barkley, he just wants to be a leader of this team. He wants to get better year after year. He still feels like he's got something to prove, despite leading the league in scrimmage yards as a rookie, rushing for over 1,000 yards on half of an ankle last year. He's a great player, and he's a great person, and I'm really excited to see what he can do this year in Jason Garrett's offense, which is going to be a video that I'm going to be making in the next few days, so be on the lookout for that on the channel. We're going to be doing a film breakdown of the Dallas Cowboys offense in 2019, how they ran the ball, and how Jason Garrett's scheme created opportunities for Ezekiel Elliott, and then a film breakdown on Saquon Barkley, combine those together and try and predict how it's going to go in 2020 for the Giants' running offense.
That's awesome. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how Jason Garrett can steal some of Kellen Moore's tricks.
Me too. The play-action game especially, because Daniel Jones is great on play-action.
Yeah, similar to Eli Manning. Daniel Jones kind of has that ability. He has the mobility too to utilize play action very efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a very good running game, it creates so many problems for opposing defenses. The play action becomes so effective because that's where like you can just utilize your receivers more efficiently and more productively. In mesh routes and play action screens. Saquon Barkley has to be utilized in the screen game a lot more, and his wheel routes are fantastic. They barely ever use him in wheel routes.
That's true.
And he had a touchdown against the Bears last year on a streak right up the middle. He has great
and
hands.
against the Redskins, he did that. A nice wheel route.
Against the Redskins?
Well, he might have done against the Bears, but I know he did against the Redskins.
He had a streak route against the Bears on the left side of the hashes,
Right.
but he had a wheel against the Skins as well. And he has great hands, and I feel like he didn't get enough.
He's made some one-handed
action.
catches and great receptions. Like, that dude's...
Oh, yeah.
He's a great receiver. I know Jack recently wrote an article that really made my wheels turn about whether or not he is actually the best receiver on the team. I could maybe see the argument made for that.
Yeah. I could see it in terms of route running, I would say probably not, but in terms of a pure receiver, he catches the ball at a high rate, and he can make plays in open space better than anybody on the team. So you can make the argument that he's arguably like one of the better receivers just because of how he runs, the power he has, and the shiftiness. He is just the combination of a bunch of different players, and I'm really excited to see how he can develop in 2020. I hope it's a lot better. But, this team, we can't judge everyone on the bad apples. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be a few bad apples. We can't assume the whole Giants team is terrible because of it and they're all criminals. Like, that's not how this works. Saquon Barkley, like you said, is a good guy. Daniel Jones is a good guy. Dexter Lawrence is a good guy.
Yep.
And
Will Hernandez.
The common theme here, Will Hernandez is a good guy. The common theme is like you want to have your top, first and second round picks. Those have to be good guys.
Definitely.
Those have to be very good people with great characteristics and a mentality toward winning. Daniel Jones just recently hosted in Texas a group of his skill position players to work out. So it's good to know that they are actually doing things in person and starting to learn some of this offense. They're probably applying some of the earlier portions of this offense to just the offense so far and their skill players. But I think Jason Garrett said recently that they're really just, or rather it was Judge, they're just installing the base concepts, right? So this first year, and this is kind of why I've been saying we should take everything with a grain of salt, because the offense and defense in 2020, it ultimately comes down to the details, and I don't think they're going to have all the details and the intricacies worked out by maybe until halfway through the first year under these new schemes. But establishing a base concept and then working around that, adding things game by game, changes. I know Judge, I wrote an article recently, and one of the quotes Judge had was that they're going to be changing their scheme game by game, and they might be running the ball a ton. They might be throwing the ball a ton depending on the opponent. That's what I want to see. I want to see actual game plans. I feel like Pat Shurmur just kind of applied his system and was just like, we're going to just use what I have and hope for the best. And we saw the same crap every single week, and teams started to figure it out, and look what happened. We ended up winning like 5 games or 4 games. Just that's how it is.
And one thing with Pat Shurmur that he would do that would drive me crazy is he would have Saquon Barkley going off in the first half and then not give him the ball in the second half. If that continues with the new regime, I'm going to lose my mind, because I know there was 2 games, that Eagles game, remember that? He ran for like 120 yards in the first half. He touched the ball twice in the second half. Oh my God, I wanted to put my head through the TV. That better not happen anymore. Jason Garrett, I really don't think it will. I think that was a case of Pat Shurmur's a great offensive coordinator who had too much on his plate as a head coach. Now Jason Garrett was a head coach, had a lot on his plate. He's an offensive coordinator now, he'll have less on his plate. So I don't see that happening in the future, but if it does, I'm really going to lose my mind.
I agree. I think Jason Garrett's coming here, and he's had a really tough workload the past 10 seasons as a head coach, and now he's kind of been cutting back. He gets to focus in on the offense, apply all of these awesome systems and knowledge that he's gained over the years, hopefully develop an offense that doesn't look like Ben McAdoo and Shurmur mashed into one, just stagnant and just crap, just slant routes to OBJ every time. or running it up the middle with Saquon Barkley. I don't get it. I feel like I could call a better game than Pat Shurmur at times.
Maybe
the
you
amount
could.
of times I watched him halfback dives up the middle, I just like, I'm playing Madden now, and I'm like, even I'm more diverse than that. Like,
keep practicing
insane,
Madden.
man.
Maybe you will be better. And this also relates to my fact of the day, so I'm going to throw that out there now. When the Cowboys finished with the NFL's top-rated offense in 2019, it marked the 8th time they finished in the top 10 with Garrett as either coordinator or head coach. They were 2nd in 2007 and 2009, 10th in 2010 and 2013, 6th in 2012, 7th in 2014, and 5th in 2016. Year after year, Jason Garrett has led a top 10 offense. I don't see any reason for that to change now that he's with the New York Giants.
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think? Okay. Garrett was the offensive coordinator earlier on, and then he lost play calling duties. So Jerry Jones was essentially like, we want you to be more of like a walk-around head coach. And then he gave, it's like Rob, was it Martinelli or something? Rod Martinelli?
Right. I don't remember, but yes, I think it was him.
And then Kellen Moore last year.
Kellen Moore.
Do you think that he actually has the ability and, just the experience and all these different factors? Do you think he can actually develop a really good offense? Because it seems like some of the offenses that the Cowboys have had in the past haven't been his per se.
So the thing that I read is Jason Garrett would say run or pass, and then the play would be chosen. So he wasn't calling plays, but he was calling the play in a way. So he'd say run the ball or pass the ball. They were on the same page. It wasn't like Kellen Moore was running the offense. They were communicating the whole time, or whoever, the guy before Kellen Moore, they were communicating. And Jason Garrett always knew what play was being run. I think he had the opportunity to ex-nay it if he disagreed. He probably never did because of a lack of trust that would show. But he did run the plays before he when he became the head coach. He stopped calling plays, I believe. But I think he still has the ability to do it because he's still heavily involved. And over those years, it was his offense that they were running.
Right.
It was all of Garrett's concepts and plays in the playbook were his, but the offensive coordinator was just picking the plays from the playbook to run. So I think he has more than enough capability to run the offense and call the plays, especially now that he isn't a head coach and doesn't have as much on his plate.
Right. And what do you think is the most important aspect of those successful offenses?
I think he uses a lot of timing routes and anticipation there. And I think that in the passing game is what's so important because as long as you've got that chemistry with your quarterback and receiver and you throw those timing routes, they can really be unstoppable. And we've seen that with the Cowboys where they just have people, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott became really good at it. Tony Romo used to be great at it. You got the timing route, so all you have to do is count to a certain second in your head, make the throw, it'll be there. You have to time it. That's the only thing. And I think Daniel Jones is really smart and he has great anticipation, so I think he can really flourish in this offense. And then on top of that, the offensive line helped a lot with the Cowboys, but they did run the ball really efficiently. They always called the right run play. They were diverse with the way that they ran. It wasn't always just up the middle, or they would run outside all over the place. I think that Jason Garrett is really just a smart offensive mind. He loves to use the tight end too. We have Evan Ingram. Hopefully he can break out in this offensive system. Everything just looks like on paper it should be excellent. We have the offensive roster, like the personnel to fit into this offensive scheme, and it should be really, really good. Let's just hope that it comes true because I remember 2007, we all thought we were Super Bowl contenders. We went 3-13, so...
Yeah, it happens, man. It happens. But here's my last question for you. What's the most important unit for a successful Jason Garrett offense?
I'll say the offensive line.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, they had the best offensive line in the league for the past 10 years or so. So I definitely think that's the most important unit, and that's why I think the Giants invested so much into it in the NFL draft this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, think about how important an offensive line is. Your receivers don't matter. Your running back doesn't matter. Your quarterback doesn't matter if you don't have a good offensive line. And we've seen that over and over again with the Giants, and it's still pissing me off, guys, that we don't have an offensive line that we know is going to be good this year. We don't know.
Still some question marks.
We can hope. We can hope. Andrew Thomas is a rookie. Remember that. He's going to have hiccups. He's going to have struggles. There's going to be things he has to fix. Don't expect him to be an all-pro guy just because he was a 4th overall pick. We've seen enough damn busts over the years. I'm not saying he's going to be one, and knock on wood right now that he won't be. But it's important to note that he will have his struggles. He will let up sacks. I know, right? Just knock on your head. It's fine. So with that being said, then you look at right tackle, and let's imagine that Andrew Thomas is the starting left tackle week 1. Will Hernandez will hopefully benefit from that. We know Will Hernandez is a good player. He just has crap around him the past few seasons.
That's true.
And then you have the center position, which we're going to talk about in a second. Well, we have Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux, John Halapio, Spencer Pulley, all these guys. And then you have Kevin Zeitler, who's a beast. We know and love him. I can't believe I actually saw some people recommended we trade him. I actually wanted to delete my own Twitter account at that point. Right guard, or rather right tackle, we have Nate Solder, Matt Parrott, or Nick Gates. So I think Nate Solder will plug that hole. Personally, he played in his rookie season, he played right tackle. But think about the offensive line. If the offensive line struggles, Daniel Jones doesn't have time in the pocket. He suddenly falls into the same habits that Eli Manning did because he's being sacked and hit over and over again. You're anticipating it. You're not able to go through your progressions because in the back of your head, you're like, I don't want to get rocked by any of these guys.
DeMarcus Lawrence, Fletcher Cox,
DeMarcus Lawrence,
Chase Young now. It's scary.
Just so many guys. The NFC East is loaded with talented pass rushers.
It is. It really is.
And
except on the Giants, we don't have any.
Except on the Giants. We're always the ones that don't have the pass. It's like we built an entire franchise around OC, Justin Tuck, Michael Strahan, some of the best pass rushers in history, but they just suddenly, like Jerry was just like, you know what? Let's just stop using the one thing we know works. Let's just stop using the one thing we know works. So we had JPP for a while. The injuries hit. He blew his hand off, and they still didn't even find a capable replacement for him. They brought in, Avery, I forget something.
Avery Moss, Demontre Moore as well. They brought him in. That was a train wreck.
Demontre Moore was a bust. So we're looking at a team that really knows they know the formula, the secret Patty formula, right? They know it. They just refuse to use it, and they're becoming the chum bucket. And now they're looking to the New England Patriots and Joe Judge to try and figure out what the winning formula is again. They're bringing in guys that know how to do it.
More SpongeBob puns, please. More SpongeBob puns.
Yeah, I love SpongeBob, so I'm going to try my best.
All right.
My next quote will be a SpongeBob quote for sure. But
Great.
With that being said, the offensive line is far from complete. That they are the catalyst for success. Saquon Barkley, running lanes for him, super important. The receivers don't matter unless Daniel Jones has time and he doesn't feel like he's going to get rocked every 5 seconds. But Anthony, I want you to talk about the center position, what you think is going on there. And Nick Gates has apparently been working out at center with Derek Carr in Vegas.
Yeah, I love that report. I love seeing that Nick Gates, Will Hernandez are out in Las Vegas training together with Derek Carr and other Las Vegas Raiders players. Yeah, I almost forgot. But Nick Gates has been practicing his snapping, which is really important because we don't really have a starting center yet. That's a huge position battle on this team that could honestly make or break our offense. That's probably the biggest position of weakness for us. But if one of these guys can pan out, it could become a position of strength. You never know. But Nick Gates, he's my favorite to land that position. I think that he is the most talented player we have running for that position. I'm really happy to hear that he's out there training and learning from some experienced Oakland Raider veterans and snapping to an actual NFL quarterback and just putting in the work to become a center. I think that's really important. And he might end up at right tackle, but I think that center, if he can play that position, it really could fortify this offensive line. So I'm really excited by that news.
Yeah, you don't want to know what good players do, and smart players do. They train.
They do. They train.
They don't drive. They don't drive drunk on Monday mornings.
Yeah, definitely
don't do that. And good people. That's what good workers do. And Nick Gates is showing us that he wants this job. He wants to be a starting player at the NFL level as an undrafted free agent out of Nebraska. That's what I want to see.
And
I
Dave
think he's gonna
Gettleman
earn
did
it.
say, yeah, I do too. And Dave Gettleman did say that he has a lot of faith in Nick Gates, and he's definitely
He's
going to
tough
give
as
him a
hell.
shot at the center position. Yeah, he did also say that. So everything we've heard about Nick Gates over these past 2 years has been really positive. I'm really excited by it.
And I want to add to that, Gettleman, if there's anything that he is really good at, it's finding offensive linemen in the later rounds, or rather undrafted guys too. Look at Andrew
true.
Norwell. We were looking to pay him like
Trey
the most
Turner.
money ever. Trey Turner as well. I think he was a third-round pick, fifth-round
so.
pick,
I think so.
third or fifth.
Later round pick, yeah.
Regardless, we were looking to pay Andrew Norwell like the most money in history at the position 2 seasons ago.
We were.
And he was undrafted. If we can get Nick Gates as an undrafted free agent, starting center, he played pretty well right guard and right tackle last year, that's a huge win. And I'll give Gettleman that credit. He is a fantastic offensive line evaluator.
He is.
We just need the coaches. Hal Hunter just didn't get it done. He just could not get it done. And
Don't
now,
get me started on Hal Hunter.
Oh, yeah, let's just avoid that topic altogether. But Mark Colombo, if you guys have heard about him lately, oh my goodness, some of the stuff people are saying about him, they're like, Sean O'Hara the other day and Chris Nee are like, that guy scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
He's a disciplinarian to the max. He holds people accountable. He sets the tone. That's where the Dallas Cowboys line, you watch them play, we have big guys on our offensive line, sorry. We have big guys on our line.
Yep.
So does Dallas. But you watch Dallas play, they just seem bigger and stronger and more disciplined. They work as a unit. You're like, okay, this is different.
Yep.
Like these guys are legit. They are kicking ass. And then you look at the Giants, and Eric Flowers is on the ground, like with his little sippy bottle, and he's crying, and his mom's running on the field to come help him up. That's the difference between winning and losing, guys.
It is.
Mark Colombo's bringing a winning mentality.
And Nick Gates has already spoken really highly of Mark Colombo. He said that one of the things that he loves is that Mark Colombo actually played 10 years in the NFL as a player, and he said that's really exciting to him, and I think that's really exciting too. But like I said earlier, all of this stuff looks really great on paper. The Giants made all of these improvements to their offensive line. They brought in such a great offensive coordinator and great offensive line coach, but I really just want to see it on the field, see it come together, and actually not disappoint us, because there's been so much disappointment these past couple of years. I mean, like I said, that 2017 season, we brought in Brandon Marshall. He was supposed to fix anything that we had wrong with the offense. 3-13. We still had DRC and Janoris Jenkins coming off of all-pro seasons. 3-13. So I'm just really hoping that it's different this time around, that maybe all we needed was a great coaching staff to turn the good looks on paper into good looks on the field in reality. I'm really hoping that this season isn't a disappointment like it was when I read the news of Aldrick Rosas today. Yep.
That's how it is, fellas. But before we wrap up, I want to say a few things, and I want to dive into Saquon Barkley and the contract extension that is bubbling and it's going to be coming up in probably next year. But before that, I just want to say, if you guys are listening and you received your Fireside Giants stickers, let us know on YouTube or on Twitter. I have a bunch left, so I'm trying to send some out. If you could leave us a 5-star review, it would mean a lot to us. We work really hard to produce great content for you guys on YouTube, and highlights and reviews, and just keeping everybody informed with quality stuff. I'm trying to give out, free stickers and cool things for you guys to enjoy, and it always helps us to show some love. And I really appreciate everyone that's listening and has stuck with us through this episode, the sadness and the excitement that we have in store. But to dive into Saquon Barkley, Anthony, he is projected to earn $17 million per season, which is more than Christian McCaffrey, more than Le'Veon Bell, more than Todd Gurley. It's more than everybody. He would be the highest paid running back in history. Now, I don't think he deserves it just yet. I personally don't like paying a running back that much at all, and we know a lot of people that would not agree with that, and would agree with that, actually. So what do you think has to happen in 2020 for Barkley to really justify that kind of money?
I hate to be a hater, because I'm not, because I love Saquon Barkley. I think he's an extraordinary player and person. I don't think you could justify $17 million to the running back position. I think that's a position that can be important, but not that important. That is a lot of money, and running backs don't have that significant of an impact on the game. You can see that with the 49ers. They had Raheem Mostert and other players that are undrafted running backs run for 200 yards just because of the scheme and the offensive line around them. They're so dependent on everything around them that it's hard for them to actually be worth that money. If you invest that money into the offensive line or into the scheme somehow, you're probably going to get greater returns than just investing it into one player and running backs only last until they're about 30 years old. So if he wins MVP before he gets that contract, then he deserves it. Because if we have an MVP player on this roster, they deserve everything, because I don't think that's happened since Lawrence Taylor. But I can't see what he can do to justify that much money, because that is so much money. I know there's a lot of teams around the league that are refusing to pay running backs. Like the 49ers, they're not paying running backs. They're paying small wages for decent running backs and getting a lot of production out of them because of their scheme and offensive line. And the Titans still haven't even paid Derrick Henry because they don't think that he's worth a lot of money either, just because he is so dependent on their offensive line and scheme. And that's really the problem with running backs, is they are so dependent. But the one thing about Saquon Barkley that does make him a little different, and Christian McCaffrey, so they are somewhat worth the money, at least more than most running backs, is they are such excellent receivers. Like we said earlier, Barkley is arguably the best receiver on the team, so you are kind of paying for two positions in one, so maybe that's a way you can look at it and make it worth it. Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. That dude was a complete monster last year and was a great receiver as well. But the thing is, if you have a player like a running back play at a monstrous level like Christian McCaffrey did last year, or you have a quarterback play at a monstrous level, look at the difference. The Panthers went 5-11, I believe. They didn't win more games because Christian McCaffrey was going crazy every week. But if they had a quarterback who was going crazy every week, they probably would have won 11 games. That's the difference in positional value, and I just don't see as much value in the running back position, which is so scheme and personnel dependent. When you compare that to other positions, it's really tough to justify giving a large contract to a running back. And I hate to say that because I do love Saquon Barkley quite a lot.
Yeah. So the only way I see this, being justifiable in any sense is we saw what he did in his rookie season. He had over 2,000 all-purpose yards.
Yeah.
That's the middle of the iceberg. There's a lot left for him to accomplish. There's a lot more he can do. With that being said, I think he has to be in the 2,500 to 3,000 range all-purpose yards to be earning $17 million per season. That would be a historic level of production for the Giants at the running back position. Saquon Barkley literally has to be a god amongst men on the field. He is that talented. He does have the tangible traits to do that, and he is a leader to the T. Mm-hmm. I love Saquon. I think that he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal player, but this is probably going to come off as a hot take, but it really isn't in reality. If he doesn't have a good season in 2020, knock on wood again, the Giants might consider trading him.
They could, and I know that that's really come up as a topic of conversation on Twitter. I don't think they ever would. I think Dave Gettleman is going to pay Saquon Barkley in my mind. He's never going to let him go. He doesn't, and that's kind of why that debate that our guy Willie Receipts has been banging the drum for so long is a thing, because when you draft a running back that high, you're forced to pay him, and it might not be worth it to pay him. So the whole thing is kind of a mess, but at the same time, we don't have a lot of talent on this roster, so let's just be grateful that we have Saquon Barkley. At the same time, he is so talented, and he is so fun to watch. But even in his rookie season, when he rushed for over 2,000 yards, we only won 5 games. Or not rushed for over 2,000 yards, but 2,000 all-purpose yards. We only won 5 games. I really don't know if he actually won us many of those games either. He definitely helped, but I don't think he carried the team to those wins per se. But yeah, I hate to be negative, and especially when things are so negative surrounding the Giants, like always. So I do want to say, I love Saquon Barkley. I'm so excited to watch him play, and I'm excited to do that film breakdown. It's just this whole topic of paying a running back so much money is a really hot one, and really one that is way above my pay grade. It's something that Dave Gettleman has to handle.
Yep, it's going to be interesting to see how he manages Barkley's future deal, and let alone he's not even in his third season yet. You know, he hasn't even played or started his third season, so he could wait until midway through the fourth year of his rookie deal to actually make a move. And running backs are extremely high probability of injury, so waiting as long as humanly possible is advisable when it comes to this type of thing. They could always extend him on his fifth-year option. I imagine that's probably what they will do if he lets him, if Barkley doesn't hold out. But I don't see Barkley as the type of guy that would hold out. I think he's such a good guy, they're going to feel obligated to do what's right by him. Again, NFL is a business, so you really never know. Look what's happening in baseball right now. Rob Manfred's trying to destroy his own game. So you really never know what could happen. But thanks, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Fireside Giants. I hope everyone is staying healthy and happy during these times. We can't seem to escape the negative Giants stuff, but at least we have some positive things to look forward to, like Saquon Barkley trucking Eagles players over.
Oh, yeah. Definitely looking forward to that.
That for sure. And make sure to tune in on Thursday for our Madden matchup. We're going to be doing randomized teams, so we'll see what happens there. And the Spicy Pepper Challenge will be following shortly after. I'm literally training for this. I don't even have to leave my house to train, which is great. I can just sit in my basement, drink a few beers, and just train on Madden for hours so I don't have to eat this spicy pepper. I really don't want to eat this spicy pepper is the reality.
Me neither, but I'm so confident that there's no chance I will be eating it, so I'm not even worried about it.
Okay, well, I see Anthony's trying to get in my head, but it really doesn't work that way because my head is like a cement wall. I don't let anything in, and I'm going to take another
It's not just a cement wall. It's all cement in there.
Yeah, it's all cement. There's two monkeys clapping tambourines together. That's pretty much it. But tune in on Thursday. It's going to be really fun. We're going to talk Giants, hopefully yell and scream, maybe throw a few things. And then a spicy pepper ensues. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.